this world is such a and when I say this world, I mean it. I don't mean in an ideal sense. I mean in every day, every little thing you do. It's such a gimme, gimme, gimme. Everybody back off. You know, everybody's like, you taught that from school, everywhere. Big business. If you want to be successful, you want to be like Trump, gimme, 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 push, 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 step, 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 crush, crush, crush. That's how it all is. And it's like, nobody ever stopped. Just, you know, I feel like instead of us just being like, slavery's bad, slavery's down, bad whitey, bad whitey. I mean, all right, let's stop that. And everybody's smart enough to know that, I mean, we've been slighted. And we want ours. And I don't mean by like ours, 40 acres and a mule, because we passed that. But we need help. I mean, for us to be on our own 2 feet, us meaning youth or us meaning black people, whatever you want to take it for us to be on our own 2 feet, we do need help. Because we have been here. We have been a good friend. If you want to make it a relationship type thing, we have been there, and now we deserve our payback. It's like you got a friend that you don't never look out for. You know, you dressed up in jewels. Now America's got jewels, and they paid and everything, and they lending money to everybody except us. And it's like, you know, everybody need a little help on their way to being, you know, self-reliant. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole thing about the album, about the Special Olympics. Everybody need a little something and they to be independent. No independent person just grew up and was born independent. You worked and you learned teamwork and you learned cooperation and unity and struggle, and then you became independent. And we have to teach that and instill that. And why is it that they want to do that? I mean, if this is truly a melting pot in the country where we care about it, and Lady Liberty got a hand like this, she really loves us, then we really need to be like that. And it needs to be the black kids. If there's a white person who got money, then he need to help him. He need to help black kids, Mexican kids, Korean kids, whatever. But it need to be real. And it need to be before we all die, and then you say, oh, I made a mistake. We should have gave them some money. We really should have helped these folks. It's going to be too late. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when you got to pay your own karma. And that's when God make you punish. When God punishes you. Because I feel like, you know, it's too much money here. I mean, nobody should be hitting lotto for 36 million and we got people starving in the streets. That is not idealistic. That's just real. That is just stupid. There's no way Michael Jackson should have, or whoever Jackson, should have $1,000,000 billion and then there's people starving. There's no way. There's no way that these people should own planes and their people don't have houses, apartments, shacks, drawers, pants.
We say to people that say, well, they earned it. Now you go out and you're earning it.
If they earned it, then I think that that's good, and I think that they deserve it. But even if you earned it, you still owe. Because look at me, I don't have that mega money, but I feel guilty walking by somebody. I got to give them some mail. And if I know I got $3,000 in my pocket, I feel like it's wrong to give that person a quarter or $1. It's wrong. Only you know what you got in your pocket. And that's wrong. No matter what they do, if they take it and drink it, they take it and drink it. But, I mean, you got. You understand? And we all know how hard it is, and it's not about if you good or you bad. So since it's not about if you good or you bad, we know that because he don't got don't mean he was bad. Or don't mean he's a criminal, or don't mean he's crazy, or a drug addict, or none of that. It just means he don't got. And ain't it bad that you got 30? I mean, can you imagine somebody having $32 million? $32 million. And this person has nothing, and you can sleep. You can still go to the movies about, I mean, and then these are the type of people that get humanitarian awards. Millionaires. How can they be humanitarians? By the fact that they millionaires and there's so many poor people shows how unhumane they are. You know what I'm saying? And that bugs me. Not saying that when I'm never going to be rich, and you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying it's a struggle, and I think everybody deserves. And I think there's a way to pay these people. I think there is a way. It just takes to be revolutionary. And it takes to do something out of the ordinary. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that if we just said, okay, I got an idea. No more porno buildings. You know what I'm saying? Let's build houses. Or no more polo games. Let's build houses for poor people. You know what I'm saying? Or, look, okay, I know you're rich. I know you got $40 billion. But can you just keep it to one house? You only need one house. And if you only got 2 kids, can you just keep it to 2 rooms? I mean, why have 52 rooms and you know there's somebody with no room? It just don't make sense to me. It don't. And then these people celebrate Christmas. They got big trees, huge trees, all the little trimmings. Everybody got gifts, and then somebody's starving. And they're having a white Christmas. They're having a great Christmas, eggnog and the whole 9. That's not fair to me.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. I just played Tupac because we have a revolutionary there, a real revolutionary. And we had a huddle where he was mentioned as a hero, a Malcolm of the day.
Correct.
But now, I think this is either 92. It couldn't have been 82, but this is done in 92. And that was Tupac then. When did Tupac die?
He died, oh, wow.
2000 something.
It had to be
In
before
California.
2000, like maybe 98? It had to be before
Somebody's
the 2000s.
got to get back there. I should have researched this before I even brought it up. But either that was 82 or 92.
Oh, it had to be 92.
It had to be 90.
Yeah.
All right. But what I'm saying is his theme at the end was a little different,
Yeah.
I think, because of the game that they were in. We were talking about gangster rap and the war between the East and the West, and he got caught up in the ego thing with everybody else. And this is our youth.
Yeah.
And of course, Leroy, I go back to the doo-wop days when we were a little bit more peaceful. Welcome to the show, Anaya A.
Thank you so
From
much.
the Youth Huddle from National Action Network. What do you think about this Tupac?
I love Tupac. And actually, I just looked it up for us. September 13th, 1996.
He died.
He died.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew it was before 2000s because of the time frame in which I was growing up. And I'll never forget the day it was reported. We didn't have social media back then.
Right.
So it was all over like MTV and all over the news that Tupac had gotten shot. And I'll never forget like just crying in my bed, in my bedroom, just brokenhearted. Because to me, and like a lot of people have the same sentiments, he was such a powerful figure for us in this time frame. And people that are more seasoned, like let's say in your doo-wop days, right? Because you're not old to me, you're doo-wop-ish, right? You guys had Malcolm and you had, Martin, Dr. King, and you had those people that fought on the forefront, like in the streets.
Okay.
Like walked and marched and, Rosa Parks, who sat on the bus in the front of the bus instead of the back. But they were, I'm sorry?
That's later on. That's
Right.
very early.
That's very early. But so I use those examples because they set the way for us. And I think when you hear a lot of young people, especially refer to Dr. Tupac and Biggie as our king and Malcolm, it's not to to bring down or disintegrate their efforts. It's more like because they marched and because they walked, we could rap, we could sing, we could have a place on MTV, on BET, and we could even own certain things because of their efforts. So that's how I see it, especially with the whole Tupac. And
Well, see, the contrast is who was allowed to become successful.
Correct.
And how did they become successful?
Yeah,
Now,
with
you
the
go
leaders.
to Jay-Z. Jay-Z started out as a crack dealer out of Brooklyn.
yeah, that's
Now,
true.
crack was the worst disease we've ever seen in the black community.
Correct.
You talk about dope and coke, but crack
Right,
denigrated and really killed half the population.
right.
It was such a disease, and come to find out, you go today, and these are our heroes.
Right. Well, this is the thing.
Ex-drug dealers.
Ex-drug dealers. So this is why I think, as this generation, put it in such a way without understanding. Because, they say the people perish because of the lack of knowledge, right?
Okay.
And when Jay-Z and Tupac and Biggie and even, P. Diddy, when they started their thing, they had to fund it somehow. Because this industry is not easy to fund. Now, I'm gonna get to my point because you're ready. I can see the wheels going, Mr. Gilchrist. I know you. So let me tell you, being in the entertainment industry with any type of skill set or talent it's difficult to be seen, to be heard, to experience any kind of limelight. So what happened is, like, we didn't know, and I'm speaking on, behalf of myself and probably like half of the people that I hung out with, because we were more on the educational side.
Okay.
And we weren't even allowed to listen to rap.
Okay.
So we didn't know how they started. A lot of times that stuff was hidden until later on.
Okay.
Because what happened was, even though they would rap about it, rappers and like industry artists, they have a way of switching it up so that you don't know exactly what they're talking about half the time. Like, they have
Okay.
codes.
Okay.
So for me, like, I knew a certain amount of codes because where I was in South Florida, big up to Top 6, there were a bunch of hood dudes making beats trying to get famous because they saw the others do it.
Right.
Now, I know that they had to sell dope and do certain things in the streets, not because they wanted to, but it's expensive. And what happens is, if you don't have a high school or college education and you young and you trying to make a beat, it's like $50. Back then it probably was a lot cheaper or whatever, but let's say theoretically it's like $50 an hour to sit in the studio. And you don't have that money. Your parents are not gonna fund you. Your governor is not gonna fund you. You can't cash enough, food stamps to get $50 an hour for a studio. So what happened was, and that's why I started Freedom Entertainment Group, is because, like, with those cats, they didn't tell us right away they were in the streets doing the dope and selling the dope, et cetera, et cetera. We thought they were just selling their, CDs, handing them out, putting it in the trunk of their car and just, like, getting a couple
What year
of
are we
coins.
talking?
In the 90s.
Okay.
Because remember, social media wasn't out there.
Right.
So what happened is, we didn't learn that stuff until later. However, my mom and dad, they're Haitian American, they knew a lot about the streets, and they knew that they wanted to keep us away from the streets.
Right.
So I grew up knowing that there are certain places I couldn't go, there's certain things I couldn't listen to because it was all bad. But there was the aspect of, they were entrepreneurs, they just didn't have the funding to become those entrepreneurs, so they had to do what they had to do to get to the next level. And I don't condone it. I don't at all, because like I said, where I was in South Florida, I saw what it did. Half of my cats are dead. The other half locked up to this day. Because what started off as a group of guys, 6 young men, Top 6, like Lakewood, Florida, L-Dub in the house. What started off as a group of 6 young men making beats turned into like a gang of like 75, 80. And here I am, one of the little leaders, trying to be all cool with the guys, because we are like making beats together. We're in the studio together. I'm doing stuff grown people are doing, like out there in the streets type stuff. But I didn't think of it as a bad thing, because I'm thinking the end result is making music and getting it on the radio.
Right.
We're talking about, as I'm listening, we're talking about at least two separate things. One, Tupac, for me, falls into the target group of J. Edgar Hoover, which was stop a black messiah from arising within the black community. I'm paraphrasing the document.
Okay.
So when you look at 3 things, when you look at Tupac, you're looking at a child of the struggle of the 60s.
Right.
His mom,
His mother was
his dad,
That's right.
the surroundings, right? He comes out of that with this creativity
Yeah.
Tell him what his mother did.
and consciousness.
His mother was a Black
leader.
Panther.
Black Panther.
Right. So what I'm saying, it just didn't happen that he's conscious.
Okay.
His mom is bringing him up, pardon me, inner consciousness.
Right.
So when you look at and listen to the voices of these brothers who are able to mobilize other young people, then we can't look at it from the standpoint of entertainment. The enemy is looking at it from the standpoint of
Right. Okay.
a movement of potential movement of black folks.
Yes.
And there are a number of people who fall into that realm. Okay, as you look at some of the top people in the zone where Tupac comes from. Now, another aspect is that the industry that's called rap was co-opted by the enemy.
That's
They
right.
were losing money and they were losing talent, because what was coming out of the rap industry as it grew up in New York, what was coming out of it was independent entrepreneurs.
Right.
Independent. Now, they were making money, and money attracts money. So the
Right.
drug dealers eventually going to get involved, but they weren't initially in it. Last but not least, the crack industry, the drug business in America is controlled by elements of the government. There's a book written by Potash. Forget his name, P-O-T-A-S-H. He talks about how the heroin traffic came about after World War II, and they targeted black jazz spots. So like Minton's and any place where, because they were looking for icons who would in turn take the drug and then popularize it by their styling with the drug. And that's in his book, and it's called Operation Gladio.
Okay.
Operation Gladio. When you look it up in Amazon, there are a number of Operation Gladios.
You can update it to Vietnam.
But the one, well, that's part of it. All of it. Once they begin to make money, then they saw how to make money, but they did it primarily with planting drugs in the black community. And crack, last but not least, crack is a CIA operation.
Of course,
That's right.
early 80s.
Okay, so what happens is that crack was made available and there's so much money being made from it. So much money being made from it, it became
But see,
an industry within the
that was a
community.
planned genocide. This is my
Right.
whole point.
Exactly.
In the early 80s, there was planned genocide situated right in the middle of the gangs and the Crips and the Bloods. That's where this whole crack thing started. There's a series out called Snowfall. It's on television now, and everybody should take a good look at this, because it's showing the serious demise of us as a people.
Yeah.
Through greed and selfishness, and this is my whole point. Now, Tupac was talking about being a revolutionary and sharing and giving out. This is his theme coming up a Panther.
Yeah.
All right? But what happened when he got into the drug business, which, well, not the drug business, but the rap business?
So, like what he was saying, and then like I can attest to as well, you don't go in there thinking about selling dope or selling, chicks that want to make some dollars, because dope, prostitution, pimping, all of that goes into it. Why? There's a value on each life, on each head. And if you look at it, it's entrepreneurship in just a negative facet. But let's go back even further, though. Let's talk about how this can even relate to the Bible. We could even go back to the Bible, which stands for a book. What is it? It's basic instructions before leaving Earth, right? The Bible talks about when Aaron was left to monitor the people of God. Moses is given a direct commandment to go get what? The 10 Commandments, right? On top of the mountain. Like nowadays, it could be like Tupac getting a direct commandment from God to heal the land, and he leaves Biggie or P. Diddy to watch those cats, and they turn around and get manipulated by the devil real quick, and now, Cardi B comes out of it slinging, she's throwing her booty back. You got, Nicki Minaj, hating on Cardi. Then you got, P. Diddy hating on Mace. Mace ends up being a pastor, but for 5 minutes, because then he's sleeping with somebody. So I'm just trying to make it relative for those that are watching to understand. It's the same thing. History repeats itself. The Bible just has it in a cleaner version, but if you think about it, they were whoring and tricking too. As soon as Moses goes up to go get them commandments, Aaron, the biggest slut of all, is like, it's a free-for-all, let's get naked. Yes, it's an orgy.
I don't know if it went that far.
I think it did. They left out a couple of scenes, but if you think about it, when they were half
no
naked,
justification.
it's not.
That's
okay,
no justification.
I'm not giving you justification.
Now, what would Jesus do?
Jesus would literally slap them and throw the table, because he didn't want them to be doing that. And you know how that goes. So what I'm saying is,
Right?
Jesus flipped them tables. That's
Right.
what I used to use that as an excuse. That was my justification for beating people down. But what I'm saying with that though is Jesus didn't want that, but that's why Jesus had to come and set us free to begin
Where's
with.
the love energy here?
The love energy is easily manipulated.
No, see, my whole principle is that I mean, love could come into sex or lust.
All day.
All right?
Okay, however you
but
perceive
we know
it.
to really produce a decent human being,
Yeah.
you have to have a love energy.
All I remember
in there.
from the story in the Bible was the golden calf. I remember no discos.
But they were dancing and they
this is
were
our
half naked.
This is our youth
That's
here.
how
This is our youth.
I'm not criticizing.
That's why she's here.
Okay.
I start off with Tupac
Yeah.
because of the fact that at the huddle, one of the huddlers came up saying that Tupac was his Malcolm or Martin.
Yeah.
Was it Malcolm or Martin?
I think it was.
Now we know the history of Tupac, but see, they got caught up in the switch up.
Yeah.
In the 1980s, the youth of today, when they didn't understand the planned genocide. Neither
Right.
did we.
And that's exactly what
See,
I go
because
back to.
that was the destruction of our race.
Right.
Or the complete turnaround from the doo-wops. We come from the 50s, and we're love, and
Exactly.
we taught love energy,
And you guys
we were
wore
all
nice
gentlemen.
clothes.
And we would never call
Remember?
our women like Jay-Z, I got the baddest bitch in the business. What is that? The flies thing and music is doing what? And then you bring out a Nicki Minaj and make that a Carter B? What kind of women? That's not no, I mean,
I
come
know.
on.
The Bible,
And those are your stars?
one of the
That
predictions.
money is
But that's
advertisement. and-
disgraceful.
Exactly,
That's
but they don't see it like
disgusting.
that. That's why our
Nicki
generation
Minaj?
is like that. I know.
Well,
Come
I
on,
know.
what kind of female is that?
I know.
Well,
With all the fake booty and all
All of it.
they
God.
bought into something. However, their nature is not that.
Exactly.
That's exactly
Okay.
why they're where they are.
Like
Uh-huh.
what I'm saying, Paul fell off the horse.
Okay.
All right. Let's say he was going to sell some drugs, but he was going to kill some Christians.
Okay.
But he sees
Right.
this.
He's turned
he
around.
falls off the horse. He
Right.
turns around.
Yeah.
Whole
Right.
thing. So
Okay.
we can't throw our children out based on how we have been socially engineered.
All right.
Yeah.
We don't-
Here's
we
a
don't
big
approve.
question.
Okay.
The solution.
You know, there is no solution. What we can do is our
Wait,
part.
wait,
No, no, no,
wait,
no, no, no.
wait.
Here we
No
go.
something that says
There's no
no.
solution.
Of course there's a
We can
solution.
do our part.
Wait a
I
minute.
gave up trying to be a
No,
Jesus for
you
these
never
kids.
give up.
No, because
You
let me tell
never
you
give
something.
up.
Wait a minute,
It's
wait a
more
minute. I
stressful.
wanna hear.
Right. It's more stressful, and I'm speaking to the youth out there and everything. There's no solution because remember this, Mr. Gilchrist, with all due respect, we have our way that we were raised. We know what's right from wrong, but there's always a force pulling these people elsewhere that don't understand right and wrong. Furthermore, it even talks about it in the Word. Who has the dominion over this earth?
God.
Who did he give it to?
We're
Who did he give the power to?
are you saying
Don't
we're in the
ask
period
a question
where
with a question.
The
Give me the
enemy.
solution.
Enemy. There's no
the
solution.
enemy of God
The enemy
is
of
in control?
Well, is that
So-
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and at the end of the day,
Well, see, that's
this
the
is
wrong-
there's
that's
no
the-
solution.
that's the wrong answer.
No, because at the end of the day, Mr. Gilchrist, you have to
What
understand.
are you going to do to change it?
I do what I do. Freedom Entertainment Group, FEG
Well,
Management.
why you say
Neighborhood
there's no
Vi-
solution,
There
yet
is none.
you-
I can
you're
do
doing
my part.
what?
I do my part.
From her perspective.
My perspective and all
There's
those
no
that-
solution?
There's none.
From
It's
her
getting worse.
perspective.
Don't you pray every day?
I do,
For a
but
solution?
didn't Jesus pray? But he said, forgive
We're
them
not
for they
talking
know
about
not
Jesus.
what they
We're not
do.
talking about Jesus.
Didn't
We're talking
Jesus
about
say
you.
it? Didn't he say it
We're
on the
talking
Bible?
about
Didn't he
you.
say-
I
Me?
don't bring it so no,
Can I tell you
I don't
something?
hear about Jesus. I'm
I know.
talking about you.
Me,
You're
Anaya
not
A.
Jesus, all right?
I'm telling you.
Okay.
So Anaya A prays, yes. Anaya A also does her part because I can't stress out about nobody else. Listen to this, right? A psychologist, remember I studied psychology. I literally went to London, England to study where psychology originated from Freud, the crazy one that started psychology, right? The doctor of psychology. One of my favorite psychologists made it so poignant to me. From then on, I stopped trying to fix people. So
You're one individual.
no, but let me tell you why. There's a man, a psychologist.
All right.
We have to take a break.
No, just
Oh.
is he here? Yes. All right, just bring him on.
Okay, so
All right, just we'll
story
come
real quick.
back to it.
Okay.
We'll come back to this. We have
Okay.
Dr. J on this set,
okay.
and I just want to throw in a little bit.
Oh,
See,
I
I'm
gotta
gonna
tell you
show
about
you-
the psychologist.
I study psychology too,
Okay,
and you know, when you tell me there's no
There's
answer,
none.
no solution, that shows
From
me
her
that
perspective.
And we have to do
She
our
has
part.
only
she
live-
can't exist if there's no solution.
Listen, we can be 80.
Of course you can. Of course there's a solution.
There is none. What is your solution?
God,
But,
put the spirituality back into the heart.
but how? If people
How?
don't understand and they're walking around
You have to
blindly?
learn and
You
have to
gotta
understand.
teach
You got to
them.
find the God that lies within.
Right.
Okay?
But
now you know God.
I know
So
God.
how you don't think it's a no solution?
Because at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do. Real quick, let me tell you about the psychologist.
There's a solution for you though.
He said Really? Ready
No
for this?
solution for other people. You
Let me-
just worry about you.
Not me, because
That's a
why-
self-centered
No,
30s. That's a
because
self-centered
I have
30s.
a whole organization that
You
gives
don't act
back.
like there's no solution for you.
Listen,
Anaya, you are doing something.
every day,
all right.
and I
Okay,
try to
and within
plant
the realm
seeds.
of-
There's no
Exactly.
solution. Okay.
So the psychologist stated, and I think his name is Jean Piaget. He started off as a herbologist or the person that studies plants. I can't remember the name, horticulturist, whatever. Anyway, he started off studying plants. And one day, this man was married with 3 children. This is in Europe, like in the 1800s. He turns around one day.
Why you bring him up?
Because I have to share this with you. He turns around one day and he notices all 3 of his children playing with all 3 different personalities. And as he turns around and looks at them, a thought came to him. You could be in a family and raise children with the same mother and the same father under the same roof, and every one of them are different. Instead of studying what was making him money and being the tree studier he was or what have you, he took his life and devoted it into studying family, studying people, and became one of the fathers of psychology, and showed in his studies out of his own children how it is possible that you can train people, you can give them the same type of education, etc., and everybody's going to be different.
There's your solution.
Well, it's
Do you understand where I'm going with this?
yeah,
Thank you.
it's when I'm interpreting.
Oh,
when
you're
I'm
funny.
interpreting, let me
That's why
give
you
you
love
feedback
me. High
on how.
five.
No,
the proper word
You-
is what I'm
you come up
processing
negative
is
on
this:
me.
No.
is that
That's negative.
she has reached a point in her
All right,
meeting
let's,
challenges.
let me
Okay.
interrupt it for Dr. J.
Okay.
Just play Rosalind Jeffries and we'll come back to you. This is Dr. J coming on the set.
Okay, hi, Dr.
He's only a
J.
half an hour late.
I love it.
It's half an hour in time.
And,
And you promised you'd be on time. Graham's not with us today. He's on vacation.
Well, he's lucky.
this is an intense convo.
They did.
Praise God, what a blessing it is to be here at Convent Avenue Baptist Church. I give honor to Reverend Grant, your minister, and to all of those on the committee for African American history who invited me here. It's a pleasure, extra pleasure, because my good relative, Dorothy Clarkson, is here. And Dorothy, oh, my heart is just beating with love because I see you here. And thinking of J.B. Clarkson and what Convent Avenue Baptist Church represented to me as a child. J.B. Clarkson worked hard here. He was a deacon. And Dorothy Clarkson worked hard here as well. I grew up in Baptist Temple as a Sunday school teacher, teaching the Bible, and that good work that my parents did, that my mother, Mary Robinson, continued with, was such that the Spirit of God was always with me. And so that when there was trials and tribulations, what I have to say is that through it all, it was not necessarily the bio that you heard of Yale University and of all of the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the studies and the research that got me over, but it was what my mother and father and what my people represented, who praised the Lord, not just like a bump on the log, but they were active Baptists. You know, the Baptists have the emotional and the feelings that come out and reach out to you. And so on 115th Street where we lived, I was the oldest girl, and so I used to go shopping on Saturday mornings in a supermarket that was 116th Street in those days and Lenox Avenue. And as I would come out, I would be wheeling the groceries all around to go to 115th Street. Malcolm X would be standing on that corner giving his lectures and talks. And so that I stood there because he was so magnanimous, and he was drawing you so much with the words. And so I stood there and listen to him. The men would be up close, but a little kid could go around the side with the groceries, stand there half an hour, and then go on down the block. And so I had a lot of the rich culture of Harlem. I remembered Malcolm X, and I remembered the Garveyites. In the building where I lived, it was the Father Divine and Daddy Grace in the same building. Around the corner was the Yoruba people. And so my life was set to maintain the God that I knew. So no matter how many of the many trips I took, I began with Dr. James Robinson of Operation Crossroads Africa, but my heart was always one-track mind for Jesus Christ. And so that no matter what happened, whether it was the cultures of the world coming together or whatnot, I was always back looking for the Jesus light and element, the Jesus love that continued to get me across. So that sometimes when I took a test, I remember taking the test to go to Yale University, and I heard the voice of God say, it didn't matter whatever I put down, although I think I put down the right answer. God meant for me to go there. And then when I remember not just being saved, but having that next step of salvation where you feel that you have the Holy Ghost and the fire of God, I remember saying, oh, this is so wonderful, a love of God that floods through your being, that melts anything that's hard and nasty and gets rid of your animosity quick and fast and keeps you on the right path. I said, Lord, I love you so much. And I said, I'm going to get rid of these objects. Those were museum objects. And I was in museum studies at Yale. And I said, I'm going to get rid of all of this. I'll even give up. I won't even go to Yale anymore. I love you so much. I'll just sit down and love you. And then I heard the voice of the Lord said, no, you will not. Your mission will be to separate the wheat from the chaff. So that many of those objects that our ancestors produced, many of them were not necessarily idols. An idol is anything you put in the place of God supreme. It could be your car. It could even be a picture of Martin Luther King where you always say, I used to march, I used to you. What are you doing now? Are you worshiping God? If not, that picture is an idol. And so that I began to see even terrible looking objects that had nails all in them, and understanding that each nail represented a court case. And so that each nail was as if it was part of the long list of those who had died that was just mentioned as part of our rich ancestry, that they were court dealings and court cases, and that life is not always a bed of roses, but sometimes there are some vicious things that we have to overcome. So that
Wow. Now, you have to realize that this church she's speaking from, Convent Avenue Baptist Church, I began going there in 1942 when it first opened up. All right, so I'm 1 year old. I'm on my mother's knee going to that church. I live 3 blocks from here. All right, across the street was a tailor shop on 145th Street in Convent Avenue. My family owned that tailor shop. My father was the presser. My aunt and uncle owned that shop. All right, so this is my early beginnings, my Christian beginnings. All right, so this is my homeland, and this woman's in there talking about Jesus. I was baptized in that church at 11 in 1952. All right, so this is the homeland here, and she's talking about having all these accolades and all this history and still thinking about Jesus. And like I said to you, what would Jesus do? All right? So this is our foundation as black people. Now she went along and came up behind Malcolm. Now this is your better half, Dr. J.
Oh, yes.
This young lady.
She's definitely the better
All
half.
right? All right? Now, why are you running off to Africa and we should be here saving our people here?
Well, the important thing about Rosalind is that she has her deep root here and her special Harlem experience.
Right.
But she was one of the first of our generation
As she says
to
that.
go to Africa.
Okay.
She went in 1960 with the Operation Crossroads Africa program, which was started by a black preacher who was a friend of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, had gone to Lincoln University with him, but he was not only committed to the raising up of the Christian tradition, he also established a church on Morningside Avenue, which was a community church. In other words, that church was designed to serve the people. And so he instituted contact with Africa, this preacher man, James Robinson, and he instituted it in order so he could do something for Africa. So he was working in the community of Harlem, he was working down south, he traveled around the world, but he knew we had to link whatever we're doing serving our ancestors in Africa. So the Operation Crossroads Africa program was one of his seminal achievements, and so many of us, so many of my peers had that experience. One of Malcolm's daughters, not Ilyasha, who was the third daughter, but Malcolm's, one of the babies that was in the womb when Malcolm was murdered, and the twins, Betty was cradling Malcolm's head on her pregnant womb, and one of the daughters there was Malat, and Malat actually went on the Operation Crossroads Africa program overseas also. So Malcolm's daughter, born at the time he was eliminated, had an African connection through this minister, Reverend Robinson. He was like a son to us. He married us on Morningside Avenue. I had a chance to go to Africa a dozen times. Not just go, but to be involved spiritually, be involved intellectually, be involved in linking up our people with our roots. And of course, out of that came Alex Haley, who first did Malcolm X's autobiography. This is the latest book on Malcolm, done by his daughter Ilyasha, the third of them, Malcolm's Diary. And so we have to see the connection between our deep roots in the South that was a part of our survival culture, our foundation roots in Africa, which is the culture upon which high culture and civilization has been built for the human family.
Okay.
Africa is the birthplace of humanity.
Right.
It is where humanity reached its highest levels of understanding the creation and the creator and the spirituality involved. So you just don't go to Africa to get excited or to mourn your ancestors that were enslaved. You go to Africa to get your spiritual grounding.
All right. That's a good reason why. But since I get it here, we're talking to everyone here. Here's my spiritual connection right here on this show. Because we've stimulated the youth. We put up, my first rolling was Tupac and his revolutionary ideas of sharing and, being
Tupac?
a socialist.
Shakur, the rapper.
I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you.
All right. But then we went on to talk about the 80s and the crack epidemic when it took away our spirituality.
Right.
And this young lady stuck up and she made the comparison of, what was the Bible repetition?
Aaron and Moses in the Bible.
And how we were decadent, and it's these times that we're to be decadent, and there's no solution, right? And the solution is to go back to our spirituality. That's my point.
Right.
Because I'm your grandfather in this whole, but there's a missing generation there between my generation and your generation. But that generation was slaughtered by the onslaught of crack.
Not all of them.
Well, no, of course not all of them, but there's still the imprint is lasting by this decadence that you see now in our culture. And that's what we're talking about, how to revive that middle generation, or two generations there that were sacrificed. Now, what's the answer, Doc?
Well, I think you're being too serious.
Oh, okay.
In terms of the devastation. Certainly, the attempt to destroy the rise of our people by any means necessary was what the Europeans were involved in. So crack and other forms of devastation took place. But why? because we were in the middle of a revolution of
That's right.
African consciousness
That's
all
right.
over our world.
That's
That's
right.
right.
And so I like to look at, as I've told your audience often, all the time, you have to have a systems analysis. Otherwise, if you grab one piece of the activity, you get what I call a paralysis of analysis. And that means you only see part of what's happening. Systems allow you to see things in a larger way. So, not to make it sophisticated and complicated, I use the triangle shape to explain what I'm talking about. And of course, the triangle shape comes directly out of our cultures of the Nile,
Pyramid.
and the form of the pyramid. So at one polarity is economics. Everything is economically connected. Why? Because economics is your productive, creative capability. So economics is the first principle. If you don't have economics, you have nothing. But in order for your creative, productive capability to be a part of what you're all about, you got to have politics. And politics is not what politicians do, it's what you do to manage your life. It's what your families do, what your communities do to manage their
That's what I
life.
said, right?
Politics manages your economics. And then that's the foundation upon which you build. But the key to economics, productive capability, politics, management capability is the summit. The summit is culture. Culture is not shaking your booty. Culture is not playing a tenor sax like I did for 15 years. Culture is the deep thought.
That's
Culture is the
right.
deep values. These are our contributions to the humanity.
That's it.
We became the foundation in terms of economics. We produced the first civilizations of high culture.
Amen.
We produced the politics that became not just domination and devastation, it becomes spiritualism, and it becomes a manifestation or renaissance, and a culture. Culture is the transmission of knowledge, deep knowledge, from generation to generation.
So how you transmit that to the culture of today?
That we're in a white cultural mix. Dr. Clark said it best. In other words, we have been culturized white in order for us to achieve whiteness, in order for us to get degrees, whiteness, in
Okay.
order for us to learn whiteness. And so we're breaking that. In order for us to achieve, we need to break the white stranglehold on everything we do and Africanize our lives.
Okay, all right.
Now that's hard for people to accept. I don't want to be African. We know you don't want to be.
Okay.
Because the European educational system, the Judeo-Christian process of exploitation has taken you out of your Africanness and processed you into whiteness. But there's been a revolution moving toward this Africanness, and it continues in spite of devastations, in spite of massive incarceration, in spite of drugs, in spite of poisoning our minds with TV programs, all that mess that our children went through. Luckily, my mother and others said, no, turn that TV off. You got to learn something. And so they put the learning on the table. Our pablum was not Dick, Jane, and Spot, and Little Red Riding Hood, Jack and the Beanstalk. Our pablum was Booker T,
There you go.
W.E.B., and Marcus Garvey. Booker T. Washington, farmer, take control of yourself, your land, build. That was an image. They were farmers. They came up out of the deep south. They knew that you had to have your land in order to build. And then here comes W.E.B. W.E.B. Du Bois talking about develop the mind. You got to have the skills to build, but you also have the mind to think. And then here comes Marcus Garvey and say, that think is not just limited to you in the South or us in the North.
But how do the youth relate
It's
to
a
that?
universal global African. They have to be told the truth, and it's not happening. However, fortunately, the New York Times just came up with something that's a mind blower.
1619.
It's the 1619 Project.
Yep.
Okay.
We've got to tell the unvarnished truth about what enslavement was.
That's right.
And the founding of this nation. You open it up, and then you got, they must have, something happened here. They just got a blank page of blackness, but at the top, they got the Jeffries. Right there. What does it say, Chris?
We are communicating against educational malpractice.
Hey, say it again.
We are communicating.
No, we are
educational-
committing.
Committing, I'm sorry.
Committing. I'm sorry I didn't let you see it right. Educational malpractice. That is by Dr. Hassan Jeffries, born and raised in Brooklyn, now a professor out in Ohio, who wrote the book Bloody Lowndes, The Struggle for the Vote in Lowndes County. That's a reference to his statement about his child and whatnot. This is what the New York Times just came out with. A 10-page introduction to a 100-page statement about our struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. That deep ocean divide that we have to bridge.
Oh, I know about this. That's why.
Well,
And-
that's a solution, though. You said there was no solution.
Because, you know, you ready for this?
Wait a minute, wait a
How
minute.
many young people, you're talking about this
Now,
generation.
it's my show,
Okay,
all right?
go ahead.
Just
go ahead.
listen up.
Okay, listen. I'm listening.
Listen up.
All right, Grandpa. 'cause
You
said
know
I-
me,
you
all right?
I know.
You know me,
Every
all right?
week, yes,
You know
sir.
I have something to say here. The reason why I put this together is to teach us all how we communicate to each other.
Yes, sir.
All right? There's always a theme. And the main theme is play the white supremacy, hidden colors. Play that one. And we'll come right back at you. See, Whitey's scared. That's what the deal is. And we got to understand this, all right? And that's the solution. Understand?
And he has
One part of the religion of white supremacy is to sacrifice certain people and sacrifice their lives for the sake of your religion, to show your dominance in your religion. And this is what the white supremacists, they do with melanoid people all around the world.
We are this beast that they are afraid of and they have to destroy in order to protect themselves, protect their women, by extension protect their country. So the more white folk in America become a minority, the more afraid they're going to be, the more reactionary they're going to be, and the more they're going to see a need to circle the cultural wagons and take us out. This is their last stance. And to be perfectly honest with you, if you really understand the essence of white supremacy, they have to do that. In their minds, they have to do that because to submit is to die. So they are like a caged animal or animal that's been trapped in a corner. They're going to do everything within their power to survive. And if we understand that and understand this is the mentality that we're dealing with, then our reaction has to be a different reaction. You know, we can't react to everything that they do if we understand their mindset. We have to know how not to provoke them, but there are other things that we could be doing and should be doing in order to maximize our presence, right? And take back our power so that we neutralize them just by our very presence.
In order to maintain a system of supremacy, you have to also maintain that people stay in a position. And if they get too far ahead or make too many far advances, there's a fear that we're going to lose control. I've even had people say to me, well, if we give, in quotes, black people everything they're asking for, then we will be out of control.
During the Jim Crow,
It's just a tease, but see, here's the act. Now we've got a man in the White House that has played to the theme of white supremacy. You have to understand how white people are afraid that they're outnumbered, and they can see all their power disappearing. So this is what we have to face, and we have to get our own act together spiritually. There's the solution. Now you as a young person have to learn from our masters. And you see Rosalind Russell up there, she's a queen. You see how she came out of Harlem and made it with
55 years
Wow.
together.
all right?
And in the struggle, in the middle of it, not running
right.
from it, and helping to
The
raise
reason
it
you're
up
here
and whatnot.
is because of the struggle of the females before. There's the toughest job on the planet, being a black female.
Yeah.
All right? But to see all the females that you just mentioned that are decadent and demeaning us as a people, and yet they're making tons of money.
Yeah.
Now, what is allowing this? White supremacy and the Illuminati, which I have a piece on that. We don't have much time to run it, but I'll run a piece of it.
Even this 1619 project goes back into the 1400s and the 1500s. And there's Queen Nzinga,
That's right.
the warrior queen, who fought the Portuguese.
Okay.
And so this project is more than just a few ships bringing some Africans over. They are talking about redoing the history in relationship to us and this nation. This nation was founded on the strength and the ability to survive of African peoples. And that's what this whole project is all about.
You know, a lot of people don't know about this, Doc. You'd be surprised. I met a visiting nurse just last week, born in St. Martin. Man's 48 years old. He came here at 21 and didn't know about slavery. I thought that he was joking, you know? You can see most immigrants that come here don't know about our 1619 struggle. They know nothing about this. All they see is the flaming torch of liberty and thinking that's freedom. But that's the Masonic order controlling everything.
Well,
Illuminati.
That's the Masonic order, but the inspiration for it was not the Masonic order. The Masonic order was a Frenchman called Edward René de la Boulaye, who was inspired by the struggle waged by black folk in the Civil War. And he said, now that America has armed its black people to defeat slavery, let's honor America. And so the original idea for the Statue of Liberty is not the Masonic process. It is a Frenchman who was the head of the French Anti-Slave Society.
I thought they were Freemasons.
No one wanted to accept the role of the black man fighting and the black woman fighting to end slavery in America.
Okay.
So here you have this idea that looks sensational, but nobody is supporting it because they knew the inspiration of it. It was a disgrace. The statue had been designed, it was ready to be shipped, and America did not want to pay for it.
That's right.
So eventually, the Masonic orders had to step in to save it being a disgrace.
All right.
And so it was Masonry that was organized to help finance. And so they reversed it. Instead of having the chains in the hands of the black woman holding the broken chains of slavery, they put the chains at the feet. And they put a torch in her hand, representing the lighting of the world, and put a book of laws under her arms. That became the Masonic change in the original design. So that's what this whole project is. America has been a fraudulent attempt to say black folk are inferior when we are the foundation of this nation,
the world.
Economically, politically, and culturally. And when you extend it out in terms of the human family, it extends out economically, politically, and culturally. That's our role. That's what we have to teach.
See, this is the lesson that young people like yourself need to take a hold of. Now, this is when you think there's no solution, there's your solution there. Understanding that we're spiritual people. That you are the human God. The female is a human God. There's no way in the world I can demean you since I come from your womb. So why am I cursing you out and calling you Miss B and you the best B I ever seen? And I mean, that's
B
not
for beauty, the best beauty you've ever seen.
All right. But this is what Jay-Z is accused of saying, of demeaning his women. I mean, you don't say that to make money. This is what I'm talking about. So there's no, I don't find anything.
But let's move it away from the confrontational and the conflictual, and let's look at the system. Dr. Wade Noble is one of our greatest scholars, one of our partners on the West Coast, doing the work that we're doing on the East Coast, he's doing on the West Coast. In other words, bringing that truth forth. He says very clearly, African people everywhere suffer greatly from a shattered consciousness and a fractured identity.
Yes.
So the same type of confusion you see in America in reference to us is in the Caribbean, is in Central and South America, is in Brazil, is in those blacks that are living in Europe. Our role in this African rebirth and renaissance is to find the path to unifying that conflict and that confusion. And when this project is 100 pages in the New York Times, just focusing on what was involved, you can't just dismiss it. It can't start with the street. It can't start with the rappers. It has to start with the teachers. It has to start with the leaders. And that's where it's starting.
Those doing their part.
And then pull the family in. So we're on a victorious path. People need to see that.
You said no solution.
Because in a grand scheme of things, which he understands.
You explain that?
things evolve. When the brother comes in, Dr. Jeffries comes in, and he lays out
Yes.
the element, and correct me if I'm wrong, the element here is knowledge.
Yes.
Right.
You're talking about
Exactly.
knowledge of self.
That's right.
So when you don't have knowledge of self,
Which I said.
then your woman is a dog. Then
Okay.
your man is a dog.
Right.
But when you
So
get
we-
knowledge of self is not, oh, I'm really from Africa. Knowledge of self is who you are.
Right.
When you
Okay.
talk about Africanization,
Okay.
yeah, black people get scared of that. They don't understand that when you talk about Africanization, you're talking about buying back into our original self. And our original self is what we have but don't know we have.
Okay.
We have power.
That's right.
And you got to get Sister Jeffries on because she's into some knowledge now. Brother's into some knowledge. When you hear the black woman put that out, she's the first teacher, the first doctor.
Did you hear this piece we put on there?
No, I'm saying when you,
I mean-
when you
It's deeper.
I'm
Okay.
going to get her on the show that I do. I'm going to do that soon because you have to, black women, black strong voices of black women, black strong women, their voices are missing from the media. You
That's
hear
it.
dumb women, you hear yelling, you hear, but you don't hear that, you don't hear
Right.
what you heard in that presentation. And when that happens, then other black women who look at TV, they don't stand up or listen to radio, they don't sit up. The black woman, she is the baddest. Her struggle is with Negroes like me who don't know who I am.
Okay.
Now, once I know who I am, then I'll begin to take care of business.
All right.
But what Brother Jeffries, this is available at the Schomburg.
It was.
Okay.
They
But
ran,
Schomburg just
yours
called
was
me.
the last one?
They ran, I told him I wanted 100 copies. I took some around to Reverend Butts and Abyssinia. This is the baddest thing.
Yeah.
It's
When
three
did this
parts.
come out?
Two Sundays ago.
Sundays ago.
2 Sundays.
Two Sundays ago. But it's a project. It's not just a news
just a
article.
story.
Yes.
It's saying we have to reverse the lie that is America and tell the truth. There would be no America without us.
Yeah.
There
Right.
would be no America without
Exactly.
our genius of surviving and our genius of building. The breast of the black woman nurtured the children of white folks. No, don't worry about that. That sounds like one of those celestial calls.
Yeah.
That may be from one of our ancestors up there. Oh, yep, it's from Dr. John Henry
Oh,
Clark.
we got,
It's Dr. John Henry Clark. I know
Right,
what, Doc, don't worry about a thing.
Stay tuned for more.
We're going to be doing this thing. You set us on this
perhaps
path.
We'll do another segment.
Dr. Clark with Dr. Ben
it's,
calling us. And
but-
Francis Cress
But
Wellesley.
we'll come
That's
back to you
right.
for the
That's
Bronx.
right.
But the power and knowledge. You know,
Knowledge is
you
power.
reap what you sow.
And African knowledge is
There's
African
always a
empowerment.
solution. There's always hope, and there's always a readiness. The God in me loves the God in you. And this
Hey.
is what we're trying to bring out in all
Hey.
people. Power to the people.
Power to
You got
the
another-
people and Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever. Wakanda
I
forever.
want to say
Leroy.
that folks have to support black media.
Amen.
That's right.
What the uniqueness of the New York Times is that, quote, that's the paper of record. And a certain group of black people read the New York Times. So this is good for them. But at the grassroots,
Yeah. Yes.
we're the ones who are going to convent to First World.
Right.
We're the ones
Right.
who are going to First World, and our illustrious brothers and sisters weren't. But you got to support local media such as Amsterdam News,
That's right.
national media such as The Final Call, The Beacon, The Challenge. You got to get into the knowledge and teach and sit down with your babies and read the paper.
All right.
Let them see you reading a book.
Each one teach
Again,
one.
thank you for coming. And again, the God in me loves the God in you. And stay tuned for more of the Gilchrist experience. Power to the people. God bless.
I'm going to interview Sister Rosalind soon.
Well, she's so busy on the computer and trying to